Hi everyone, this is Anastasia, and I wanted to take a little bit of time today to share with you my journey with frequency numbers, healing numbers, or codes. So I may use those phrases interchangeably. And I am doing a group healing tonight at 7 p.m. on Zoom. It is limited to 6 people. So, I have one more spot available if anyone's watching this and wants to jump in on it. So I've been doing some short lives on Facebook, and then I've been transferring things over to my YouTube channel. So I've been doing one code per these like really mini lives, and really just sharing with you the number and asking you to see how you feel before, during, and after, and see if you feel any shifts. What most people are reporting is that they feel calmer, they feel lighter, they feel a little better somewhere in their body. And I have had people say like very specific ways that the energy is moving through their body, that they're feeling it. Some people have said that they're feeling energy moving down one of their legs, or both of their legs, or down their arms. One woman, one woman reported that she was having lower back pain, and I think halfway through me speaking the number sequence, that her pain went away. So it's really cool. It's really interesting to how it works, and it's different for everyone. There's no way that I can say you will have this experience with working with numbers or frequency numbers or hearing them, because it's different with every person, and it's actually different every time. So you may hear the same sequence for a whole week each day, and it may feel completely different in your body. And that's really very much how healing works. We rarely will feel the exact same release or sensation of healing or lightness, because something new is being cleared each and every time. So I would not expect, or I would never say to somebody, this is what to expect. There's really, it's just very different. And like I said, each person is going to feel it and experience this particular type of healing in the way that their body needs it. So let me share with you a little bit about my journey with numbers, because I never really set out to work with them and to offer healing with numbers, frequency numbers. Sometimes I've called it quantum frequency numbers. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter the title. So my journey goes back, and I don't have the exact year, but I'm going to say roughly 10 years ago. I went to a pretty large expo in my area. In fact, they just had the expo over the weekend here. So every November, there's this massive health expo, health and wellness expo, that happens just, 15-20 minutes from where I live. And there was a talk that I went to, and the gentleman that gave the talk, I'm trying to remember if it was the first time I had sat in on one of his talks, or maybe this was the second or third year that I had, gone to hear him speak. And he had a booth, and he has a center, and I used to live in the town that he and his wife have this healing center. It was very interesting that they lived in this town that I lived in. So he was at the expo, I was at his talk, and his talk was around healing. And I forget the topic. There was a general topic. And then at the end, so towards the end of his talk, he did 2 sequences of numbers. He read from a piece of paper. The first sequence is what I remember. I don't remember the second one, but the first sequence he did was to release fear. to help to release how we experience fear in our body, in our physical body, like in our mental and emotional bodies. So he took out a piece of paper and he read a series of numbers, and to be honest, it was just zeros and ones, and it was his own formula, his own sequence that he had downloaded. Again, just zeros and one, and it was probably a good, maybe 2 lines if you were looking at a piece of paper with lines on it. A good 1.5 to 2 lines of just zeros and ones. And what he asked us to do in the audience is to really just sit and listen. We could have our eyes closed or our eyes open, and we were just listening to the numbers he was reading off the piece of paper, and then he asked us to see how we felt in our bodies as a result of that. So that was pretty neat. And again, it was 10 years ago, so I do remember feeling different things shift in my body. I think I was so in awe of just him reading some numbers off of a piece of paper because my body did feel lighter. Now, I don't remember if it was like, if I had some physical discomfort that felt lighter, or if it was more some anxiety or something I was worried about. I don't remember exactly, but I definitely remember feeling much lighter. And then he did a second sequence, which was really cool. And I forget what that was. So let's see. I'm going to fast forward to about 3 years ago. I was in a class online, and I met a woman that had created a card deck. Now, she is a healer. She does a couple different types of healing modalities. She's in Ireland. I believe she's Irish. And so she's a healer. She's an artist. She's been, I believe, an artist maybe her whole life. She's very prolific. And then she started working with numbers. And her card deck was, each card was her own art. So on one side, there was a different piece of her art. And on the back of the cards were numbers. And then she would have topics or things that the numbers would help on. So, and I used to do readings for folks on Facebook with those. I would do card pulls, and when I worked in sessions with folks, I would pull one of her cards at the end if I felt that it was appropriate. So she had things like soaring, moving forward. That, I think that was one of her cards, moving forward, releasing something, releasing pain. She had a topic. She had a little sentence or a couple of sentences to describe the card, and then numbers at the bottom. And what she would do is read the numbers out loud to you. She had a whole protocol of how to start and work with the numbers. And I did do a session with her. She had me tapping, which I love. So it was like tapping. You would say the numbers out loud, and you would tap, just like right here, as you said the numbers. And she would check to see, do you say the sequence 2 times or 3 times or 6 times? How many times a day do you say it? You would work with the sequence for, again, however long she prescribed it for. It could be for 2 days, it could be for a week, it could be for 2 weeks, and you just kept working with it. Now, the other way that she shared with me about how to work with numbers, and I luckily have a jar right here. I wasn't planning on sharing this, but the number sequence that she gave you, she would sometimes recommend, obviously, we did the tapping with her, but she would say, write that, I'll grab a piece of paper, write your number on a piece of paper, and she would sometimes say you could tuck that in your wallet, for ladies, in your purse. You could put it in your pocket. So you'd want to have the number close to you, like close to your physical body. Because she was female, she would stick it in her bra, so she'd have it real close. Or another way that she recommended is you could take the piece of paper with the number on it and stick it in your sock. So it was like close to your body. Now, I know that may sound strange, but we're working with the vibration of numbers. We're working with the healing and frequency of numbers. So to actually have it close to you and close to your body and your person actually does make sense. It's very similar, and I say this so often when I talk about numbers or flower essences. It's similar to wearing a stone, a crystal. There is healing energy in stones. There's a vibration and a frequency in stones, just like there is in flower essences, in flowers, and just like there is in numbers. There really is something encoded in numbers that has the energy of healing and a vibrational frequency. So it's not so strange to write numbers on a piece of paper and like tuck it in your bra, stick it in your pocket or in your sock. But the other really cool thing that she taught me, which I love, because I do work with flower essences, and that's using water and the vibration of flowers, is she recommended that you write your number sequence down. So if she had said you need to work with this for a week or 3 days, you'd write the number sequence on a piece of paper, and she'd have you tape the piece of paper to a glass that you'd put water in. And you'd want the number to face inwards on the jar or the glass. You could just have a glass of water, but I like using jars. So you would put your number here, you would put the numbers facing inward, you would fill it with water, and then you'd let it sit for 2 hours, I think minimum. You could let it sit for as long as you want. And then what you do throughout the day is you could take a little bit of that water and pour it into your glass of your drinking water. There's no harm in just drinking from this, but those numbers are energetically infusing this jar of water with the energy of whatever is encoded in those numbers. So she recommended you just filling this up at the beginning of the day, you let it sit for a couple hours, and then you'd pour a little bit of the water into your drinking jar. Now, the other thing you could do, if you don't want to tape it, you don't have to tape it, you could write it down on a piece of paper or an index card and just put it on the bottom and then set it down. So this way, the number, you don't have to do any taping. You can still infuse that number into the water here. It really does work. Okay, and sometimes I drink out of, not sometimes, I drink out of glass jars all the time. And I have been known to actually just write my number down, tape it to my glass, and use that drinking water all day long. So I have been known to do that. Sometimes people will see pieces of paper taped to my jar, and they do ask me what's in the jar or what's going on. Yeah, I will put like lemon juice and stuff in there. So people are always asking me, what's in your jar? What do you've got floating in your jar? And then I've got the numbers taped to it. So again, this is going back. This is like the second time now. The second time that I was introduced to working with numbers. I have a couple more experiences with them that I'll share with you. So that's my second time, and this is going back about 3 years. What else do I want to say about that? Oh, the session I did have with her, I was holding a lot of things in my physical body. I started crying, and I think I cried for a good 5 minutes straight. I was sobbing. You know, when you're like, your shoulders are jumping up and down like this, and you're just doing that like ugly cry. That was me. There was so much that I was holding inside of me emotionally. And when she read out the numbers that she was working with me, and she had me tap, it was like the floodgates opened. It was really intense for me, but this is not unusual for me in a healing session, is to have that much emotion release. Now, is that everyone? No. Is that going to be your experience? I don't know. Maybe. But I didn't want that in me anymore. All of the angst and whatever I was holding. And again, this is 3 years ago, so it is hard for me to remember exactly, but there was probably physical pain because I was in physical pain then, and there was emotional pain that I was holding. And it felt amazing to release. Amazing. Now, because I knew her in this class we were taking. This was not just a practitioner that I had just met, that I knew nothing about. I had developed a relationship and a little bit of a friendship with her. So after I was done crying, and she held that space for me, and she was okay with me taking my time. When I was done crying, I said to her, I just am so curious. She had worked with like a good 100 people at that point. Her card deck was somewhat new, but she had worked with a good 100 or more folks. And I said to her, has this ever happened to you in a session? I was feeling like very self-conscious that I knew her, but not that well. We weren't in a healing relationship where she was somebody that I was regularly seeing for healing work. So I knew that this is part of healing. Like, this is what I do when I work with people. Sometimes they're holding so much in, and it's an opportunity to release, and that's beautiful. So I was comfortable holding space. I am comfortable holding space for people. I was okay with letting this flow out, but I just was curious from a practitioner standpoint. I said, has this ever happened to you before? And she said, no, it has not. So that was a new experience for her, but it was quite beautiful. And I did feel like more was releasing as the day went on. And then it subsided later in the day, of course. So that was my experience with her work and the card deck. Hi, Dom. Nice to see you here, or have you here, I should say. Thanks for watching. So let's go to my third experience with the numbers. Now, this came through my super connection teacher, and she's in the UK, and we were meeting regularly, and she still does meet regularly with her students every couple of weeks. And we just share what's going on with us, if we need support with anything. Starting back in 2020, she started this group for us. She wanted to provide us support as, the whole world was locked down. And these are former students of hers or current students that would share information outside of the super connection work that we all studied with Linda, but people would share, maybe a new technique or something that was helpful to them. And someone had shared this information. This was somebody else's information, and somebody had compiled a group of numbers, and this was very extensive. There were numbers for clearing the chakras and individual chakras. There were numbers used to clear different organs. There were numbers to clear sadness, different types of pain, poor eyesight. The list goes on and on and on. And she shared this with us, and then I started working with that. It's like a manual, actually. It was a manual. So somebody taught us how to use this, and then we, I started using it because I loved it. I was familiar with the card deck that somebody was doing, and then I was like, oh, this is amazing. Now, let me say that in the class that I learned with Linda, in the super connection class, this is a dowsing class. She taught us how to use a pendulum to clear all sorts of things. And there was one part of our training where we could create a healing code for people. So there's a chart. The training is full of charts, and we learned all the different charts and how to work the charts. And towards the end of this workbook that I have through Super Connection is, give somebody a healing code. And in order to do that, you have to dowse to do that. I would work with the pendulum and say, okay, how many numbers is in this person's code? Sometimes it would say 5 or 6, and then I would dowse for each individual number. So I'll make it simple, say somebody's code had 3 numbers. Then I would use my pendulum, and I might get, okay, the first number is a 7, the second number is a 5, and the last number is a 1. And the whole time I'm using my pendulum to get this. And then I would give them that healing code, and I would have them, if they were with me live on Zoom, I would have them tap with the number. I would also see, does this person need to work with this number twice a day, 3 times a day, for a week? I would give that sort of, I call it, it's a prescription for lack of a better word, so that, like homework. Let's call it homework. And then I might say, take your number and throw it on your jar of water and let it infuse in the water. So I had learned maybe there's like 4 or 5 ways. Yeah, I guess 5 ways total. So Linda had taught me how to dowse for numbers, and that was prior to meeting the woman with the card deck. So my sequence is a little off, but that's okay. So the first one is at the Healing Expo with the gentleman reading the numbers. The second time I was introduced to working with numbers and healing with numbers is with Linda and my super connection work. So that's the second time. My order was a little out of order. I apologize for that. The third time was working with the card deck and the numbers. The fourth time was that manual, but that was again reintroduced through super connection, so that manual. And I worked with that for quite a while. I still love that. I absolutely love it. And if there wasn't something in that manual, I could make up a code because Linda had taught us how to do it. Now, I think this is one of the, not that I think this whole thing is fascinating, to be honest, because like I said, I never set out to work with numbers or do any kind of healing work with numbers. Not ever in a million years. If you had said it to me, I would have said, you're a little nuts. Okay, so the 5th time was I learned a different style with my Qigong teacher. I was going to say one of my Qigong teachers, but I only have one. So last year he taught a class called Codes. And he would often get on Facebook and just do live code clearing and healings for folks. He very often did that. So this was in 2024. And I had studied with him for the better part of that year, taking a course. So the better part of 2024. Well, 2 to 3 months, but my Qigong practice, I once started and just have kept up with it. So I was really like in the energy of his teachings for a good year because I did study some other things with him. So did a couple more trainings with him. Okay, so I've got my teacher on Facebook doing these codes, and I'm sitting here going, I already work with numbers. I don't need to do this. I don't need to learn this. What am I going to learn that I don't already know? Kind of like a little arrogant in saying that. But I was like, yeah, I don't need to do this. Now, my friend who I did the courses, the studying with this particular teacher, a friend of mine, and we were doing all the courses together, she did it. She was like, oh, this is cool. So she did it. I think it was a 2 or 3 hour class with him. It was not long at all. So here she is, and she jumped in, and I was like, yep, I don't need it. I already work with numbers. Well, fast forward to 2025, he offered it again earlier this year, I believe. And when he offered it, I was like, I think I want to learn it with him. Like, I want to see how he does it. I want to see if it's different than how I work with it. I am just curious. There's nothing wrong with like learning something that you're already working with another teacher. I think that's really beautiful. And maybe I just wasn't ready in 2024, or I probably was at a place where had taken a lot of classes. In fact, if I remember correctly, when he offered it, that day was full of training for me, and it was just a lot to do another thing in the evening. So I think that's what actually happened with that in 2024 was I'd been in training all day, and I was like, I can't do another thing at night. That's like 3 hours. That's going to end at like 9 or 10 at night. It was just too long. So it doesn't matter. I did it in 2025. It, again, was fascinating. He does have a different way of doing it, but the idea is the same, is that there is frequency and healing in numbers. And when you put them together, there is a specific frequency and healing that happens with a particular sequence. So what I learned from my teacher last year was, and this is, if anybody's been watching me on Facebook, if anybody's been watching, I close my eyes and I download the numbers. And that is the latest technique that I've learned, is not even to use the pendulum, not even to grab the manual, not even to grab the cards. And all of those ways are beautiful, and I still may go back to those. I'm not saying I wouldn't. If I'm doing a super connection session, and in that session with somebody, it says give them a code, I may whip out my pendulum. If I feel like grabbing that card deck so that somebody has a visual of a number, I might do that. So it's not like I've gotten rid of any of the ways that I was working with numbers. But this last and latest way, the latest way, I should say latest, because maybe it's not the last way, is that I close my eyes. Somebody might say, I'm struggling with, let's just use poor eyesight or something. Let's just use that. So I'll close my eyes and I will, based on the training that I have from my Qigong teacher, is I will download a sequence of numbers for people. And when it's done, it's done. And I'm listening, I'm tuning in and listening. And when it's done, I just stop. Now, I haven't had anybody tap with me while I've been doing that Facebook Live, but you can certainly tap. You can certainly take that number sequence after I'm done and put it on the jar of water so it can continue to work with you. That's beautiful. What else do I want to say? A lot of times when Keith would do the lives, my teacher, he said the code and that was it. Like, you got the healing that you got in it live, in it being live time. So you did not have to go back. You could, nothing wrong with going back, and you might go deeper with hearing it again. But the healing happened live and in the moment as you were receiving and hearing. You're hearing the code and receiving it. A couple more things I want to share that I think are important. And I'm going to put this up on YouTube. So I know this might be a bit of a longer video, but I'm going to archive this on YouTube for anybody that's still here watching. And I do see two lovely ladies that I know. So hi to you. Hi, Tracy. My friend that did all the studying with me with this teacher, when we would hop on live, when he was live on Facebook and he was doing the sequence, people would type in like, oh, I feel this and I feel this and I feel this. He'd do another code and people would type in, my left shoulder hurts or my left shoulder feels better. My friend, I remember a lot of times she would say, ugh, I felt like throwing up when I heard the number 3 in that sequence, or I felt a little icky. That was her experience. And it wasn't like it's very interesting that she was so in tune with this number. When you said this number made me feel like, ugh, I want to throw up. And then it would pass. I just share this with you because sometimes with any kind of healing work, as you're receiving it, as it's coming into your field and you're receiving it, it's breaking up energy. It's breaking up stagnant energy. And sometimes it's so stagnant that it hurts, right? Like this is a little tender for me right here. These two spots are a little tender. So it would benefit me if I did a little massaging here and maybe even a little tapping. So this is me tapping. I'm breaking up the stagnant energy. And really this does work. So as you're hearing the numbers, what it's doing is it's coming into your field and it's breaking up stagnant energy. Very similar to sound healing. Sound bowls, even flutes, even toning, when people tone and chant, even putting on some healing frequency CDs or music. I do this because there's so much on YouTube. You can plop in, healing for X, Y, and Z on YouTube, and you'll have somebody doing a sound bowl healing. It's just amazing. It's amazing. So this is how the numbers are working. They are coming into your field. There is a vibration and frequency, and they're breaking up stagnant energy in the body. So when my girlfriend was feeling icky, it was hitting a spot that was probably really congested. And so it was like, whatever's there, it's like, ooh, I feel maybe my throat starts to close up because I hear this number. Maybe I'm feeling contractions somewhere else in the body. And then it would shift. It's not like you're going to feel that contraction and pain and tightness the whole time you're listening. But if there is something really, really trapped and blocked and stored in your body or anywhere in your field, then it may feel a little uncomfortable for a short period of time. I really haven't encountered too many people that have felt it very intensely. Other than my friend, she's the only one, and I did just want to use that as an example in case that may be your example, and just so you don't say, oh my gosh, this isn't working, or this hurts, or this is bad for me. It's not bad. It is simply breaking up stagnant energy in the body. And sometimes that stagnant energy is sitting in our emotional field with different things we're holding, whether it's grief or sadness or pain or discomfort or loneliness. Sometimes that's coming into our field, and it's coming into our mental body. So our thoughts, our limiting beliefs, those structures that we have that are like really running in the background, that are like programs, a computer program, you can think of it, that we're not sometimes even aware that they're running. So sometimes it's going in, frequencies are going in and breaking up limiting beliefs that you might be holding. For a lot of you that have been watching the videos, it's working on a physical level. I just had somebody reach out to me yesterday because she'd gone onto YouTube and said, oh my gosh, this is the craziest thing, but like my neck, I think she said my neck feels like kind of wobbly, like there was some release that happened in her neck after she heard one of the quick videos that are like between 5 and 10 minutes. So just some examples of what people have felt. A lot of people feel lighter. They feel more peaceful. If they feel anxious, they just feel calmer in their body. And I'm just taking a pause to see if there's anything else I want to share. And is there anybody that has any questions? I know there's been a couple people on here live, so if anyone does have any questions and they're still here, I'm happy to answer them if I can. And if anyone has any questions, if they are watching the replay, feel free to drop those down in the comments, and I'll do my best to answer them. So this is something that I will have an offer soon. I won't take the time now to explain what that is, but I will have an offer soon where healing with frequency numbers is part of it, and it will be a report that I email out to people, and they'll have an audio clip that they hear, but this is not anything that they're going to need to schedule a time with me for. It's more of a healing and clearing report, and I'll have more information on that shortly. The group clearing healing is tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. It'll go for an hour and a half. It'll be on Zoom. I'm limiting it to just 6 people, and the last time I checked, I had one more spot available, so I don't know if anyone watching this is, might be interested, but I'll put the link in the comments down below to sign up if you are interested. And I will be offering these again. I think it's a really great way to come into a group setting and environment where you're with other people and everyone is looking for some kind of healing work or release. And with this group, I'm going to do, everybody will get 2 personal codes, so everyone will receive 2 things, and they'll let me know what they want to be worked on. I'm not picking the topics for them. You'll pick your topics. I will give you 2 codes. But because you're in the group setting, with a full group, you'll receive 12 codes altogether. So you'll be in this energy of feeling the healing energy work for everyone. And then there might be a particular thing that somebody else is working on that I speak a code on, and you also receive additional healing because of that. So that's how that is going to be set up this time around. And yeah, I'm just taking another pause to see if there's anything else I want to share. I think I'm just excited to see how this continues to help people, because it has helped me. I know it's helped others. I'm really interested and curious to see how this continues to help. And I'm also curious to see what my journey with how my journey with numbers continues to evolve, because I suspect that it is not over. There may be some more learning and teaching that I do. Maybe. I don't know. I feel really good and confident about how I'm working with them now. And as I mentioned, I've worked with them in different ways. But the result is the same. It's maybe my approach and technique has been a little different, but the result is absolutely the same. People feel lighter, they feel better. There's less tightness and tension in the body. There's less discomfort and stagnation, and like just more peace in their heart. So I will leave you with this. Thank you so much for watching. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat. And I hope you have a wonderful day. And I hope you're able to experience some healing with numbers. If you are curious, I will put the link to my YouTube channel so you can go in under the playlist that's called Frequency Numbers, and you can just check them out for yourself. Okay? Thanks again for watching.